So if you are just seeing Run for the first time, some of this might seem a bit overwhelming, especially if you're used to working day in, day out in spreadsheets. But we'll explain all this in a bit more detail. So what you're seeing on your screen right now is one of two core dashboards that are frequently used by our clients for resource and capacity planning. And at the end of the day, the problem that we're trying to solve here is the lack of clarity, the lack of visibility into the future, to be able to just confidently answer the question of, do we have enough supply to deliver on both current and future workload and future demand? And that really is the intent here with the people planner, is to give you that centralized visibility, give you that single source of truth that we're all after, both in a short term, so being able to drill down to a weekly view, or even looking long term, right? So being able to look as far out as a year. And I think that's one of the common challenges that I hear from leaders is only being able to see 2 months out, only being able to see 3 months out. And for capacity planning purposes, that's not exactly ideal. And I think in that same vein, when we're talking about capacity planning, we're often looking at this through more of a macro lens. And while it's certainly valuable to be able to understand, each resource's utilization and know where there are bottlenecks, that planning, especially at a leadership level, it's often done at a higher level. And so what that looks like for leaders that are in Run and wanting to understand that capacity is looking at capacity from more of a group standpoint. And what I mean by that is what we can do is start to understand that capacity by role. It could be by team. It could be by employment type. So if you're looking to understand, what is my capacity for my FTEs versus my contractors and my freelancers. And again, the idea here, the purpose here is to get that visibility, to understand like where can we take on more work. And the other thing too I'll mention is that you're not limited to these fields. So it's very common that our clients will set up Runn in a way that maps to their way of working. And what I mean by that is if you need to understand capacity by department, by region, we work with a lot of internal organizations that are resourcing based on their portfolio. So this is all tailored when you're going through and actually setting everything up. But let's use the example of, let's use skills, because I think skills is an interesting one. If you're thinking about using skills today, or if you are already using skills for planning, and we're talking about capacity planning, I think this information becomes extremely valuable. And I say that because what our clients are doing is they're leveraging this data for deeper insight into which skills just have the highest demand, right? So we can see our resources that are skilled in API design, but consequently understanding, okay, which skills do I need to go out and hire for? And when you have access to this data and it's also updated in real time, it's informing HR, it's informing recruitment teams where they need to hire, and it's letting them get out in front of this too, to be able to hire for, what can often be very specialized skills, very, very competitive skills. And this is data that a lot of them just didn't have access to yesterday. So it becomes quite helpful. And you have this working in a very instrumental manner. Another common example too is being able to understand utilization and capacity at a role level. And you'll see within this graph view, it gives you that high level understanding into where you might have some of your resources, like in this case, our engineers that are totally maxed out. But one of the views that was introduced into Runn quite recently, actually just as recent as last week, is being able to look at this and say, okay, we know our engineers are in the red, but I need to understand by how many hours, right? How many FTE? And so what you can do is toggle this over to a couple different views now. So I can actually pull this up in FTE. and it's helping better inform where that gap is and how wide that gap is as well. And again, it all comes back to clarity and it comes back to visibility and having this information to not always make decisions on the spot, but to at least drive that discussion.